Hi, it's Mike once again, and in this video, let's try to tackle NetSuite expense categories. What's an expense category? What's it for, and why would I want to use it? NetSuite documentation defines an expense category as a feature used to group expenses, where popular categories include transportation, lodging, mileage, and entertainment. What's important here is that an expense category is linked to an account. When we say account, we mean your chart of accounts, specifically an expense account in your general ledger. To create an expense category in the Classic Center, go to Setup, Accounting, Expense Categories, New. If any expense categories exist and you want to list them, then go to Setup, Accounting, Expense Categories. If you're using a role that uses the Accounting Center, then the navigation path is Financial, Lists, Expense Categories. If you are trying to follow the steps above and can't seem to find expense categories, it is likely that the role you're using is restricted from accessing this feature. If this is the case, then ask your NetSuite administrator for further guidance. Now, why would an organization want to use this NetSuite feature when it's not something that's mandatory? For one, it helps a staff member who is filing their expenses to have the ability to self-categorize their expenditures. Perhaps with the exception of staff from the finance department, we generally don't expect staff to know what the general ledger account code is for a particular expense that they're filing for. This is where an expense category can be helpful. Let's suppose that we need to create an expense category called miscellaneous expense, but specific to miscellaneous expenses that are program related. We'll go ahead and create that new expense category by going to Financial, Lists, Expense Categories, New. But before I do that, I want to see if there are any expense categories that already exist in my NetSuite instance. So I proceed instead to navigate through Financial, Lists, Expense Categories. I realize that we already have an expense category called Miscellaneous. However, when we inspect the details for this expense category, it currently points to the miscellaneous expense account under the parent account non-personal expenses. This means that this expense category is a totally different type of miscellaneous expense. So we decide to go ahead and create a new expense category by clicking on New. We then enter the details of this new category. We'll call it Miscellaneous Program Expense, and then point it to the correct GL account, and then save. Now let's suppose that a staff member wishes to file an expense report using the new category that we just created. Let's switch roles for a second to simulate a staff member filing an expense report. We shall switch to the Employee Center role for this, and let's enter an expense report. Let's select that new category that we created earlier, enter other relevant details, attach an official receipt, and then submit the ER for supervisor approval. Assuming that the ER filed by Jason has already been approved by his supervisor and then by accounting, let's see how this affects our financial statements. Looking at our statement of activity, we see that we have the amount appropriately classified under miscellaneous with the correct parent account. This concludes our quick video today. Hopefully, you now know what a NetSuite expense category is for and why you'll want to use it. Thanks and take care.